Welcome, everybody, to another brand new episode of It's My Wrestling Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Dees, and you will already recognise that handsome son of a gun. To my right-hand side is the one and only Mr. Mike Nunn, regular on the podcast. We have come together today for another special episode. Today's one, a little bit different, because this time of year, obviously, we are in fully fledged Mania season. Everybody is reviewing old pay-per-views, probably been a ton of WrestleMania 17 reviews in the last couple of weeks, WrestleMania 18 as well, with it being the 20-year anniversary. So we thought we'd do something a little bit different, more of an opinion-based episode. We are going to run down a few of our favorites. We're going to talk about our favorite WrestleMania pay-per-view overall, our favorite WrestleMania theme songs, favorite WrestleMania celebrity appearances, moments, matches, stuff like that. A bit of a WrestleMania super show, I guess you would call it. So please welcome, as I said, a regular on the podcast. You know him as well as I do, Mr. Mike Nunn. Mike, thank you very much for giving me your time once again.
Lovely. Thanks for having me, mate. I'm looking forward to doing this. Obviously, it's WrestleMania season, so we all love it.
Yeah, man. And like I said, nice to do something a little bit different rather than just picking. Yeah. I know, not to shit on anybody else's podcast, but I get a bit bored sometimes doing retro reviews because they can just go on and on and on. So that's why we thought we'd do this in a couple of like smaller bite-sized sections. Yeah. So let's talk about WrestleMania a little bit first. Do you remember what your first WrestleMania was? I think, off the best of my memory, like I'm 32 now, so it's hard to remember that far back. I don't remember last year, for sake. I'm pretty sure my first one was 17, and that's why it resonates with me so much, and it's often, like the one that I'll talk about the most. What was yours? Do you know?
Yeah, it's hard to remember that far back. I'm 30, so but my older brothers all watched wrestling, so I got into it very young. Although it's difficult to remember, my first memory of wrestling, full stop, was WrestleMania 12. Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, Iron Man, was the first match I ever remember seeing. I was very young, so what year was that?
17 was 2000. No, 1799.
Yeah. What was 17? So I think I may have been about 6 or 5 or 6 at the time.
Also, much younger than me then. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember much. I don't remember much of the actual pay-per-view. I remember the match: Bret, Shawn, Iron Man. Bret was always my brother's favourite growing up, so he was outraged that he lost. So that's my first actual memory being WrestleMania.
Yeah, I remember I really got into it watching like highlights on Channel 4 or 5, whatever it was, before school, but that would have been at secondary school. So I think I would have been very early teens, maybe like 11, 12, 13 sort of age when I was properly getting into it. I knew about it, but unlike you, I have no siblings. And nobody at school was really into, nobody ever talked about wrestling because
they didn't.
Pokemon was the only craze happening at that time. So I don't think I even discovered wrestling at that point. I probably not even heard of WWF or anything. So awesome. Love hearing little stories about how everybody got into wrestling. Let's crack on then. Like I say, we're going to do this in a few different sections. We're going to start off with by discussing our favorite ever WrestleMania just as a whole. The favorite pay-per-view could be because of the card, it could be because of things that happened at that pay-per-view, whatever your reasons might be. I'm going to start off by going I'm going to go pretty obvious. I've already mentioned it. Loads of people will be talking about it at this time of year. It always, I think pretty much always comes at number one on any list of greatest WrestleManias ever. And there's many good reasons for that. It's WrestleMania 7. Yeah. I'm not going to bore everybody to death because, like I said, it has been talked about to death. Like, what more can I possibly say about it? You know, I'm going to keep it fairly short and sweet. Fantastic card. There's a couple of duff matches in there, like China versus Ivory and, you know, just really random stuff. The Triple Threat Hardcore match was a lot of fun, but still wasn't great. There was the what was it? The APA, not the APA, sorry. Right to Censor versus I can't even remember who they were against now off the top of my head. But it was bad.
Yeah.
We had some great matches like Triple H, Undertaker, Angle Benoit. There was obviously the main event between Rock and Austin. He had a great match. I thoroughly enjoyed Jericho versus Regal as well. It was a pretty solid card from top to bottom. All the top stars were there in matches. And it was just a lot of fun. You had one of the most important matches of all time, TLC 2, which for many, many years was my favorite match of all time, and in my opinion, the greatest match of all time, and one of the most important matches as well, back when the tag division basically meant something, and probably the last time that it truly meant something. WrestleMania 17 also signaled the end of the Attitude Era as well for a lot of people, pretty much like the official ending for it, because then, you know, you got Vince and Shane, their rivalry, the whole buyout of WCW, you know, monopolizing the whole business as Vince did, and then moving into the Ruthless Aggression era. So it really was the end of not just any old era, but the era that most people say was the greatest in WWF, WWE history. And what more can I say? The ending of the main event, Rock versus Austin, as well. Not to spoil it if you somehow haven't seen it, but one of the greatest heel turns and swerves of all time. It didn't lead to where a lot of people wanted it to go, and Austin was too loved to ever be that proper, like, next level top heel. But nobody saw it coming. It was a really dramatic ending. Like I said, man, not much more I can say. What are your thoughts on Mania 17, Mike? I imagine you've not got much you can add.
Not really. Like you say, it's you ask 10 wrestling fans, probably 7 or 8 of them are going to say that's their favorite WrestleMania. Yeah. It's iconic. The ending alone, you know, Austin's heel turn, like you said, it also allowed Rock to break away as the top babyface. I suppose he needed that room, because obviously he was number 2 to Austin. He was going to carry on being number 2 as long as Austin was that over as a babyface. So that helped The Rock, I think, as well, that moment. So it's so many people have spoken about 17, and they will continue to do so. It's going to be tough to ever top that as the most legendary WrestleMania of all time.
Yeah, there have been a lot of very, very good WrestleManias, obviously, but almost impossible to find like a perfect card. I don't think there's ever been from top to bottom like a perfect sequence of matches. There's always at least 1 or 2 duds, isn't there? Like another one I just forgot about, the gimmick battle royal. It was just a bit of fun, and it broke up the show quite nicely, but it wasn't a classic by any means. That's what there's always something that stops a WrestleMania from being a 10 out of 10. I honestly, I wouldn't give Mania 17 10 out of 10. I'd probably go 8.5 or 9, maybe push 9.5, because those big matches that were in there, like the McMahon's match, like the main event, like TLC 2, the strength of those, and Angle Benoit, the strength of those matches elevated the rest of the card. So there we go. Mania 17, my favorite WrestleMania of all time, which will be no surprise to anybody who listens to this show. Mike, what's your favorite card, your favorite event of all time?
Okay, so I've obviously had to think of this over. I didn't want to say 17 as well. I've gone for WrestleMania 21. So WrestleMania 21 was looking it over. So obviously it was a while ago now. Looking over what happened at Mania 21, it was a huge night. It's very important for WWE. A lot of things happened. So I've made some notes. So obviously, right off the bat, the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match took place at WrestleMania 21. Going back to what you said about being one of the most important matches with TLC 2, this one is as well. It's still going on annually. It's got its own pay-per-view now. Probably the only one that has its own pay-per-view that deserves to have its own pay-per-view as well, because the Money in the Bank match makes stars. I mean, this Money in the Bank match, we had Edge versus Chris Jericho, Shelton Benjamin, Kane, Benoit, and Christian. Great match. I remember a lot of Shelton Benjamin's stuff that he did. He was a human highlight reel. This match also, the main thing that it did was help Edge become a top star. He was never a main event guy. He won this match, and ever since he won that match, he didn't look back. He went on to become world champion, become one of the most decorated world champions ever. So that alone, historic night. We had John Cena win the WWE title from JBL, and Batista win the world title from Triple H in the main event. So two of the main guys, the top star of the Ruthless Aggression era, John Cena, Batista as well. They took their first steps to becoming main event stars on that night. Yeah, good storylines going in. John Cena, JBL. JBL was a great heel WWE champion. Cena, the young baby face, to overcome him. So that was good for him. And then we all remember Batista and Triple H. Batista breaking away from Evolution, becoming world champion, destroying Triple H in the main event. Yeah, so that was three top stars that were made on that night. Then you had Orton versus The Undertaker. A young Randy Orton. Of course, he didn't get the win, but again, it would set him up for his future Hall of Fame, legendary career in the WWE. You had an absolute classic with Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels. It went 27 minutes of just it was just incredible match. And the ending, which surprised a lot of people, with HBK tapping out to the ankle lock. Not a lot of people thought they would see that coming, but they did. He put Angle over huge. Also, it was quite a sad thing to go over because it was one of the matches was Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero, in which would be Eddie's last WrestleMania match before he passed away later on that year. But what a last match for him. His best friend, WrestleMania. He put Ray over that night. But yeah, just another great match from that card. There were a few, duds here and there. Christy Hemme versus Trish Stratus Christy Hemme wasn't much of a wrestler. We were still never a few other things. So we had Aki Bono and the Big Show. That whole thing that I like to forget even happened.
I'd forgotten about it.
Yeah, so did I before this. We also had a 30-man battle royal to kick off the show, which sort of like a Royal Rumble, which Booker T ended up winning. So that was okay. It's always a bit of fun. Yeah, so I think for that reason, I think I went for 21. It was a really good card. John Cena, for the next 10 plus years will become my favourite. Still is now. And he become a top star that night. It created Batista, moved him to the next level, moved Orton up, put Edge in the main event spotlight. Yeah, for that reason, I went for 21.
Yeah, man, very worthy. It's exactly like I said. Like, yeah, there were duds. WrestleMania, I don't know. Let's just pick a random WrestleMania. I can't even think of what the card was. WrestleMania 9 is regularly talked about as being the worst WrestleMania of all time.
Yes.
But if you really, really loved one match on that card, to somebody, whoever that person is, that could be their favorite WrestleMania. That's the same for me. I could have hated all of 17, but because of the strength of TLC 2 and what I was into at the time, and the fact that the Hardy Boys were my favorites, Jeff Hardy my favorite, that it was the destruction and something different. As a kid, I'd never seen anything like it before. That memory and resonating with that one match, that could make it my favorite WrestleMania of all time. Was it 26 and 27 with Undertaker versus HBK?
Yeah, 27, 28, I think.
27, 28, I can't remember. Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
But like, they were great matches, but because of how good they were, I don't remember the rest of the card.
Yeah.
No, so it's super subjective, like everything is in wrestling. But anyway, let's move on to our next segment, and our next section is going to be favorite WrestleMania song. Bit of a weird one, bit of a different one. This doesn't ever really get talked about. It's going to be a nice quick one. We wanted to throw in different things. Mine is going to be from the year after your favorite pay-per-view. It's going to be Shine Down I Dare You from Mania 22. Song that introduced me to one of my now favorite bands. It was actually, I can't remember what the main song was, but it wasn't Shine Down. Like you got your main You know what I mean? The main theme for the show. But then Shine Down, I Dare You was played throughout the show on a couple of different bits. As I say, introduced me to one of my now favorite bands. For some reason, the song makes me feel emotional. I don't know what it is. It might be because I associate it so closely with happy memories of watching wrestling. Because around this time of wrestling, from, as I said, I got into it at 17. For those next 5, 6, 7 or so years, I was like the most I've ever been into wrestling, apart from now. Because not long after that, I took a massive break from watching. I think I went about again another maybe 5 or 6 years without watching. Got back into it when I was about 22, I think 23. So yeah, it's the last like proper good memories that I have of watching wrestling. Sounds silly, I know. It sounds a bit soppy and a bit emotional, but I think that might be why. And it's just a fucking song, man.
Yeah,
that's my kind of music. Rock, metal, new metal, whatever, but that's got a bit of a melody to it.
Yeah,
and that's Shine Down.
very good song. Yeah.
When I think of songs that you associate with wrestling, I think of Papa Roach, again one of my favorite bands. And then I instantly go to Shine Down, I Dare You. So there we go. It had to be my favorite. What would yours be?
We're going to go back to WrestleMania 17 again. Limp Bizkit, My Way.
Of course.
Amazing. What a theme to get you invested, to get you up for that pay-per-view. It reminds me of Rock Austin. So I think a lot of that My Way was geared towards that match. Yeah, great song. Just got the blood pumping. Got you fully into the show. So going to go for My Way.
Yeah, nice easy one, nice quick one there. I strongly agree with yours as well, because it was very nearly my pick, but I had a feeling that you were going to go for it. So I wanted something a bit different. Like you say, like the best WrestleMania songs are the ones that get you like pumped up and excited for it. I forget what year it was, but we had Peter Gabriel, Big Time. I think, yeah. Big Time.
Oh, yeah.
Can't remember what year that was, but I thought, Jesus, what an odd choice.
Even one that normally I wouldn't pick was I was thinking about was Flow Rider for Rock and Cena when he sung Rock Out, obviously at 28.
Yeah.
What was it? Which one was it again?
Was it Green Light? Green Light.
I was looking this up earlier.
Yeah, right, round. I can't remember. I didn't think I knew that many Flow Rider songs. That's embarrassing. Didn't think I'd be singing on this episode either. I didn't think there'd be 2 Flow Rider songs. So thanks for that, Mike.
No, but that's got me really into that match. But yeah, the best songs get you really invested in the show, and connect to you emotionally, like you said as well with Shine Down.
I really nearly went for the Weekend Blinding Lights as well. I really enjoyed it. I thought at first it was a bit of a weird choice because I knew of him before that, wasn't familiar with the song, but then I heard it. The first couple of times I was a bit like, but after hearing it a few times, I really, really enjoyed that one. Obviously they've moved very, very strongly away from metal and rock and all that kind of side of things, but they still do occasionally pick pretty decent songs that aren't from those genres. It always made me so angry when they that was the main thing that I hated about the NXT change to 2.0. Like I'm really 2.0 now, really enjoying it, but the first thing that put me off was moving away from the metal. Like I loved Rage, and then I loved Slipknot, and then they went to Wale.
Yeah, they've gone for a more hip hop feel, haven't they, now with 2.0?
It's more appealing to the demographic. I get that.
Yeah.
But anyway, right, awesome. Let's move on to the next category. I'm going to let you lead with this one, buddy. We're going to go for our favorite celebrity moment or celebrity appearance, involvement, however you want to word it.
Yeah, Bad Bunny. When he first came into the WWE, I had no idea who he was. I know a lot of people were saying he's Bad Bunny. He's one of the biggest stars in the world. He was, but not in the UK. No one really knew who he was. He was a big star in Latin America, mostly in the USA as well. But see, when he first came in, he was doing the Booker T song, I didn't expect him to have a full-on run with the company. But he did. It was pretty much on Raw every week. He won the 24/7 title. He gave a lot of shine to Damian Priest, which is one of the main reasons why I've picked him, because Damian Priest has gone on to have a good run. He's near the top of the card. The main reason why I picked him though was because I was shocked at how good he was in the ring. The match that he and Priest had with Miz and Morrison, fantastic, and how much he cared about what he did. He really seemed to. I think he's genuinely a fan.
Yeah,
that's the way it looked to me. He looked like he wasn't just coming in for a bit of money, a bit of exposure. He was coming in because some sort of dream that he held, maybe. Yeah, so he blew me away. I'd happily welcome him back for another run.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's very little I can add to that because Bad Bunny was my choice as well. There's been loads of great celebrity involvements over the years. Obviously, like we said, we spoke about this a little bit before because we wanted to sort of like really understand what we meant by celebrity involvement. Obviously, you've had your Mike Tysons, you had your Floyd Mayweathers. There's been loads of. I guess the best way to describe them would be more like household names than Bad Bunny is.
Oh yeah.
But Bad Bunny was like the most streamed artist in the world that year, billions and billions of downloads on Spotify and stuff. And like you said, like it was the level of involvement and dedication, passion to it that made him, because all of those guys were great, but they were just like one-time spectacles. We didn't see, obviously we saw a bit of Tyson in the run-up, but we didn't see anywhere close to as much involvement as we saw from Bad Bunny. Bear in mind that Booker T song was at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And then we were seeing him still at WrestleMania, and then post WrestleMania, there was even do you remember that little video clip that they did of him like going off in a truck? Yeah. Triple H was in it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Which, they've never done that for a celebrity before, so that's cool. He moved to Florida. He moved like local to the PC and put in loads of effort. Like you said, one of my favorite things as well was the shine that it gave to Damian Priest, because I was a huge fan of his in NXT. Wasn't sure how he was going to transition to the main roster. Again, like you said, he helped to get a few more eyes on WWE, which I don't think have stayed watching WWE, but it helped at the time. The Saturday Night Live stuff was pretty cool going and performing there with the
it was, with the top,
like you say, more than anything, it was just the surprise of it all, because I didn't expect a run. When we kept seeing him appearing, I didn't expect those appearances to transition into wrestling, and he was one of the highlights of the night for me. Highlights of the weekend.
Yeah, he was.
A very weird WrestleMania with the two nights and capacity and the fucking thunderstorm that started it off. But yeah, no, that match was great. They had the most. What's the best way to word it? They just had the perfect opponents in Miz and Morrison. Reliable, dependable. They helped to make him look like a star. Miz obviously isn't the best wrestler in the world, but as a character, he really helped to elevate that feud, and he made me care about it. Got me invested in it.
He knows what he's doing as well in the ring. He's not the best wrestler, but he knows what he's doing. He's solid. He's a veteran. So,
but then Morrison is the opposite of that, isn't he? He's the worker. He's wrestled most of the match. I think we all went into that thinking, Priest will wrestle most of the match. Bunny will do a couple of cool spots, and they'll get the win. But no, completely the opposite. No. He wrestled almost all of that match himself. It was fantastic. Really put the effort in. As a performer, he already had the confidence and the swagger. And I think Priest was the ideal ally as well, the ideal person to put in there with. So yeah, there we go. Awesome, brilliant. I'm glad we agreed on that. That was a pretty obvious one for me, and I think you probably I have talked up what Bad Bunny ever since. I thought it was awesome, man. So let's move on to our next one, another little short one. I'm going to lead with this one first because you already mentioned it earlier. We go for favorite video package. Obviously, when people talk about WWE being the best at producing video packages, not only are they correct, 100% correct, they're always incredible. They do such a good job of catching you up if you've not been watching, or even if you're a brand new viewer. just watching WrestleMania for the first time, as a casual, like I wouldn't think, oh shit, I need to go back on what's happened in the last month, because these video packages are so good. They literally bring you up to speed on everything. And mine is going to be Rock versus Austin from WrestleMania 17. As you mentioned, Limp Bizkit, My Way, fantastic song. My mind instantly jumps to this one. But I think even if you're not just getting WrestleMania packages, just video packages, this is the one that I jumped straight away. My Way was obviously already the track for the event, but it was also used on the video package, which helped to get the blood pumping a bit more and get you even more invested into what was already a great feud between two of the greatest rivals that there have ever been. It was a bitter rivalry. The video itself, as always, like I said, it told the story beautifully. It got you up to speed. If you'd somehow missed any of it, it showed you how much both men truly respected each other, but desperately needed to win that match, like for their own pride, almost like for their own mental state, because they were like, was it Austin? Austin said, like, I have to beat you, Rock. That was it, wasn't it? Like that like almost desperation in his voice, like, I have to beat you, I will beat you. Great feud, great rivals, two of the greatest to ever do it. Two of the three men most synonymous with that entire era, obviously with Vince McMahon as well, Mr. McMahon. Not much more I can say about it than that. It was just a wonderful video package.
It was.
Yeah, awesome. What would I assume you agree on that one before you tell me what yours was?
Yeah, it was a great video package. You know, My Way was my pick for theme. Great theme. Obviously, Austin Rock, two of the greatest of all time, two of the most over wrestlers of all time, and that video package really helped to get you excited for the main event. So yeah, great choice there.
Yeah, man. What would yours be then?
So I'm going for Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, WrestleMania 30. It was a video package that was had Monster by Imagine Dragons in, which was the perfect song for that video package. So
can I sorry, as soon as you said what your answer was, I got chills, like thinking about it and like remembering the video package. Sorry.
I was watching it again just before we came on. It was just perfect for that match because you had the beginning with Daniel Bryan, showing the rise of Daniel Bryan from where he won Superstar of the Year, from where he was in the ring, where they were doing Orton and Cena, the unification, and the crowd were just like, nope, we want Daniel Bryan, chanting for Daniel Bryan while he was in the background, with and halfway through the video package, it switched. You had Triple H's section with him saying, you're a B+ player, showing him screwing him, Randy Orton cashing in at SummerSlam. Just perfectly showed what the match was. It was this guy who everyone wants to be the champion versus this guy, the authority, Triple H, who's blocking him, who's stopping what the fans want. Obviously, it was kayfabe, but everyone felt it at the time, and the video package was just perfect for what the story they wanted to tell. So that's why I went for that.
Yeah, man. Again, hard to argue. Like if I was to pick a top 2 or top 3 for all of these different sections that we've done, I think each of us picks would probably feature in the other person's top 2 or 3 because they're all really, really strong answers. Yeah, man, I was super invested in the whole WrestleMania sort of period. This was around about the time where I got back into it. Like I said, I was around until like WrestleMania 22, 23, took about 5-6 or so years away. I really strongly remember coming back and it being the Yes Movement stuff. But even if I hadn't have come back just in time, if I'd have just gone straight to that WrestleMania, that is such a good video pack.
It told the whole story, everything from where he was screwed at SummerSlam, where the fans were getting behind him, even when he got Superstar of the Year, Shawn announced it, and everything you wanted to know, everything you needed to know, it was right there in that 4 or 5 minute video package. That's why
you mentioned SummerSlam there. Like SummerSlam is a full 8 months before WrestleMania.
Yeah,
they've managed to tell that whole timeline, the whole saga within, like you said, like 4 or 5 minutes. It's just give, not to make this a tribalism thing, but give AEW another 50 years, and I still don't think they'll be making video packages as good as WWE.
No, they're just not their thing. WWE. They're an entertainment company. They've got professionals doing that.
Yeah, it's the attention to
yeah.
Like you said, like just saying how they went back as far as August because it was pivotal to the story. They could have just done the month before, couldn't they? But they've gone back into the archives a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Right then, let's move on to our favorite WrestleMania moment. So I mean, this could be a finish in a match. It could be an appearance. It could be anything. Mine is the culmination of something very similar to what your video package was. I could not possibly go for anything other than Kofi Mania. Just quite simply for me, the best build to a Mania moment in history. I know people are going to what about this, what about that? For me, in my era, like I've gone back and watched shitloads of wrestling. I've watched loads of wrestling that happened 10, 20 years before me. But I, for whatever reason, just connected really strongly with this one. And yes, it was pretty much a carbon copy of what happened with Daniel Bryan. It was the whole B+ player thing, the authority and Vince McMahon getting involved, battling against the odds. You're not good enough to carry the title, carry the company forward, or be the face of the company. Daniel Bryan was great, but Daniel Bryan always felt like he could be champion. You know what I mean? Like he never. I don't know what it is about Bryan. I think maybe it was the fact that he was such a good wrestler and he had opportunities and he was in high-profile feuds, whereas Kofi, obviously, ever since the stupid thing with Randy Orton, was pretty much buried for the next good years, wasn't he? Of his a good few years, apart from tag title runs. Daniel Bryan never had that. Obviously, he had Team Hell No and stuff like that, but he was never placed into those positions because of his height or his look or anything. So that's why it just felt a little bit different. Kofi is always one of my favorite wrestlers in WWE ever since breaking through in WWE ECW, and was instantly a fan favorite. And the New Day. Anybody who's watched this podcast all the way back to when it first started, like 15 months ago, or however long it's been now, know how much I love the New Day. For me, they are the best faction of all time. I know that's another controversial thingy. The fact that Daniel Bryan was a part of Kofi Mania as well elevated it for me. The fact that he had been through all the same stuff that Kofi was going through, the fact that they were saying B+ player to Kofi while Daniel Bryan, the former B+ player, was stood there. I loved that sort of like attention to detail. I thought that was a really cool way of like tying that all together. Trying to think what else. Oh, one of my absolute favorite moments in wrestling history, the gauntlet match, the tag team gauntlet match, where New Day, where Woods and Big E won the match to solidify that yes, Kofi was going to finally get the WrestleMania match.
That was brilliant.
It was beautiful. The emotion of Kofi pegging it out there, and they're all embracing in the ring. The way that the Usos forfeited their spot.
Oh yeah.
Because of what New Day had been through up until that point in that match, and they were attacked post-match by, I want to say, the Bar. I think it might have been. That was just a beautiful moment because those two rivals respected each other so much. Like we respect the New Day, we respect Kofi Kingston. We forfeit. Just amazing. Another great bit of attention to detail. Don't think there's much more I can say about it, to be honest. And obviously the fact that it ended with Kofi winning the title. The moment, getting his kids in the ring and celebrating together, getting rid of the old eco-friendly belt that Daniel Bryan and his incredible heel run.
The Planet's champion. Loved it.
Yeah, Planet's champion Daniel Bryan might be my favourite period of Daniel Bryan ever, even more than WrestleMania.
That's saying something. I mean, that's how good he is. To say that when we had the Yes movement like 4 years earlier.
Yeah.
After he come back from
he was being heel he was a Joe Gacy. And I know you love Joe Gacy, and that's why I'm saying he was telling the truth. Everything he was saying was correct. And people didn't like it because it was correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, just that moment of just joy. The crowd went fucking crazy for Kofi's win. What it meant for African Americans as well, and the fact that we finally had a black champion again after so long waiting. really set the tone going forward as well, because we've seen a lot more representation and diversity in WWE since. I think that might have been like the catalyst, really helped that to happen. And Kofi just deserved it, man. Like 11 years of working hard, always putting on a show, being Mr. Royal Rumble with all of his performances there. I couldn't have been happier. I'm not ashamed to say that I shed a tear of happiness. It was just a really cool moment. But one thing I'll always say about Kofi Mania and where it finished at that WrestleMania, I felt really bad for Becky Lynch, because that moment of euphoria and everybody's so excited in the crowd. It was such a long WrestleMania that year, like 5 or 6 hours, whatever. But by the time we got to Becky Lynch and her moment of euphoria, it just felt flat a little bit. The excitement and the you know what I mean, the euphoria within the crowd in attendance wasn't nearly as big for Becky as it was for Kofi. But I'm nitpicking.
No, it wasn't.
It's still easily my moment. What would yours be, buddy?
On Kofi Mania as well, I almost went for that. It's one of my favourite moments as well. The match itself was probably the best match of the night, Bryan and Kofi. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Just like you were saying as well about Bryan being involved, it was sort of a very similar to Bryan's Yes movement. What I loved was Bryan being on the other side of that. Like you said, he was calling Kofi B+ player. He was saying all of those things. I think Kofi Mania was as good as it would have been good anyway, but it was as good as it was because Daniel Bryan was the other guy was the guy on the other side, being completely opposite to what he was. So I love that. My moment is The Rock and Cena standing in the ring, 28. So WrestleMania 28, their first match. Right. They had a little stare down. Not stare down, it was like a stare down talking to each other. Before the bell rang, it lasted, almost 2 or 3 minutes. And they had the place in the palm of their hands. Just the whole crowd were like, it was similar to the Rock Hogan feeling that they were giving off. And the match had a year to build up. It built up for a whole year. And The Rock and Cena at that time, and they still are now, my two all-time favorites. Daniel Bryan is there now as well. And for me as a fan, they had me in the palm of the hand as well. I was like, I've been waiting for this for a year. I never thought I would see. Firstly, I never thought I would see The Rock back in WWE. Because when he come back, I think they announced him as host of WrestleMania 27. Yeah. Pop from my bedroom when I was watching. 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. It was massive. I couldn't believe it. And seeing him going into Cena, that would have been my ultimate dream match. Cena was my favourite then. And I was waiting for so long. I got the moment. It's just one of those moments in wrestling. You think, this is why I'm a fan. Because it makes me feel like this. Just that moment before the bell rung. The whole feud. 2 of the biggest stars of all time. Now they're the 2 most, mainstream stars of all time. Yeah. They're Hollywood. They're both Hollywood stars now. So, that moment leading up to that match was just magic for me. As a huge fan of both of them, so could have gone for so many things. My match could have bled into my moment as well, but I wanted to keep those 2 separate. That would be my moment.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Rock and Hogan as well, because that was in contention for being mine. Just seeing them together. I think with Rock and Cena, because of how often Rock comes back and makes these little appearances, I didn't think that was ever like out of the realms of possibility. We could potentially see that happen. Whether it would lead to a fully fledged match or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think because of Hogan's age, the fact that he was, not a full-time wrestler anymore, I think that's why that was a bit more like, whoa, for me. Not to diminish your one at all, because that was still a huge moment. Rock and Hogan was the one that I think of.
Rock was gone. He was gone. He was gone for 7 years. I don't think really we heard a peep from him on WWE TV until then. I thought that he was done. I thought it was too big of a star to come back for a run. I thought he was the biggest movie star in the world. He still is, one of them. I thought that's it. But when Rock was always my guy. I know a lot of people liked Austin. I did as well, but The Rock was my guy. I always wanted to see him come back, and yeah, that moment.
Yeah, I was an Austin guy.
Yeah.
I was an Austin guy because I was a rebellious little shit as a kid, and so was Austin. Like,
yeah.
Rebelling against the man and against his boss and all that kind of stuff. That's why That's why I connected with him more. But no, that's a really solid choice, mate. We are going to move on to our final category. I believe it's our final category. Yes, we're going to round off with our favorite WrestleMania match of all time. There are obviously hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of potential winners for this. I'm going to let you lead with yours first, Mike, because you mentioned your match a little bit there.
Yeah.
Mine isn't nearly as obvious as people might think it is. That's why I'm going to keep it to the end. It's a surprise. Yeah. You go first.
Yeah. So my favorite match was I went for Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton versus Batista, the Miracle on Bourbon Street, WrestleMania 30 main event. So obviously the moment at the end was amazing, but the whole thing, the match, I think lasted about 23 minutes. It was a really good match. Technically, it wasn't the best match, from an in-ring perspective. It was very good, but the whole thing, the match had me from start to finish. It just had me. See the whole Yes movement. I was huge into Daniel Bryan, and I just wanted so bad for him to win that match. And there was a point in the match where they put him through the announce table, and you thought, is this it? He was stretched away. Is that what they're going to say? Like, he couldn't quite do it. Is that the story they're going to tell? Because a lot of people still thought Batista was going to walk out with the title. That was what they, he was returning. He was a big Hollywood star himself. They thought, are they going to give it to Batista? But no, when he come back, and the roof just blew off the place, and they ended up tapping out Batista and winning the world title, the WWE world title. It was just an amazing match, up and down. Just had me emotionally invested throughout the whole time it was on. For that reason, I've had to go for it. It's even thinking about it now. I still remember it so clearly. 8 years on. So
yeah, and that was a strong contender for my moment as well. And not just the win and the celebration and the confetti and Miracle on Bourbon Street, all that kind of stuff. Going over and seeing Conor the Crusher as well.
Yeah.
Michalik, I forget his name. I apologize.
Yeah, Conor Michalik, I think. Yeah.
It's going over and seeing him. Beautiful, beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And worth remembering as well that obviously that match, that triple threat itself was great. WrestleMania triple threats are always great.
They are,
especially like for the main event. Was it Mysterio, Orton, Angle? There's another one that was awesome.
Yep. Reigns, Edge, Bryan, another Bryan triple threat last year.
Yeah, and but it's worth remembering for your one at 30. Obviously, that was his second match of the night. Bryan,
yep.
And still managed to put in such a good performance. Faced Triple H in, I don't know how long that match was, but it wasn't short, it wasn't long, it was out in the middle somewhere. And obviously there was the post-match attack from Triple H where he beat the shit out of him so that he couldn't compete, and that just made it special. So yeah,
exactly. And then he went through that's why when he went through the table, people were thinking this has got to be it. How can he come back from that? That's how they're going to get Batista over. That's how they're going to get away with it. And that's how it felt. They're gonna fucking shaft us here. They're not gonna give Bryan the belt, but they did. So yeah, the whole thing.
I felt confident that he was coming back because I cannot remember the last time somebody got stretchered away and did come back like mid-match.
Yeah. Even I think that's because because
Flair in Money in the Bank for God's sake came back.
Yeah, he did.
Unfortunately, he did. When he took that bump off the top of the ladder, and it took him like 5 seconds to start selling it. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Awesome. Really, really good pick, mate. Like I said, it would have been in contention for my moment of WrestleMania as well. My match is not TLC 2. You might be surprised to find out it's actually Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat from WrestleMania 3. A absolute fucking classic. A little bit before my time. Because I was born in '89, so what would that have been? I can't even remember what year it was, but somewhat short match, clocked in at around 12 or 13 minutes, so not particularly long. And I'll be honest, it wasn't like the technical masterpiece that you would probably expect for a Steamboat match, but it had the passion and the energy of like a 30-minute classic. The fact that this match felt so monumental but wasn't for a world title as well is huge. It was for the Intercontinental title. Macho Man Randy Savage was a phenomenal heel Intercontinental champ. It was more than just the standard like babyface reaches the mountaintop sort of tale as well. It was the path to Steamboat's victory was what made it so special. This match showed off. It showed off what's possible with like top tier performers acting as if they are the main event, because I think it wasn't even like the sub main event. I can't remember now, but I think it was a few matches before the main event. This pay-per-view was remembered for Hogan Andre. It's remembered for the slam heard around the world, you know, and rightly so, because that was a huge monumental moment. But this was by far the best match of the card, the best match of the year. Regularly mentioned in greatest match of all time list. I think it's usually in the top 10. I didn't know that a pro wrestling match could be painted with such color and depth, you know, especially at that time when it was more just about the characters that were in the match. It added a new like dimension for what pro wrestling could be for me. They chose to fill the match, actually. This is interesting. I had to go back and check this. There were 21 near fall at a time when you didn't really get near falls. Certainly not that many. Certainly not that, you know, that's something that you get these days, isn't it? To build the tension and to build the drama. These days, so often overdone. If you got 21 near finishes in a title match these days, people would complain that was too many. But back then, the strength of the feud, the strength of the match, the strength of the build and the program, it just built more and more tension and built more and more drama in the match. Basically, I think the best way of saying it is it was a match that was ahead of its time. Because, like I say, you get these sorts of matches all the time now, and this was happening in the 80s, where, you know, it didn't really happen very often. I don't think there's much more I can say about this match. Like I said, it happened before my time, but it was one that I'd heard so much about that I had to go back and seek it out. Randy Savage is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. For anybody watching listening on audio, I am wearing a Macho Man Randy Savage shirt right now, and with big glasses on, purple shirt.
Long-term storytelling.
Yeah,
right here on the podcast.
I just love him. Love Ricky the Steamboat. I think he's one of the greatest pure wrestlers of all time. It's hard.
Great babyface as well, Steamboat. Just me babyface. Just one of the best.
Yeah, 100%. He's one of those. These are two of those wrestlers who I knew to go out of my way to check out before. You know, when I first got into wrestling, and especially once I got the network, because it made it easier to go back and watch their stuff. I might now at this point have seen every Macho Man Randy Savage match available. The guy is awesome. This is his greatest match. I don't think it's even Steamboat's greatest match, because he had a lot of classics, especially against guys like Ric Flair. Loads of amazing programs and feuds there. But yeah, this is a pretty easy one for me. I have to give an honourable mention to TLC 2. Yeah. 6 of my favourite guys who were allowed to go out there, do whatever they wanted. They sat down together in a room before the match and planned it out amongst themselves. They were given that freedom and that trust from a promotion like WWE that doesn't have that freedom and trust in its performers anymore. It just goes to show what you can do. So many iconic moments in that match.
Yeah.
Edge spearing Jeff in midair off the ladder while he's dangling in from the belts. Edge and Christian going on to win. The involvement of Lita, Rhino, and Spike Dudley. It's probably the match I've watched the most. I think I must have watched that match dozens and dozens of times. But same for Steamboat and Savage. So yeah, it was a little bit of a choice, a little bit of a tough one.
I almost went for Taker and Shawn at 26, the second match. A lot of people talk about the first match, but the second match I think had a better story. Career versus streak. It was the first time I genuinely thought the streak was going to be broken. So I didn't think Shawn was going to be retiring. So the storytelling in that match was incredible. But the way, I think Taker was about to tombstone in, just. But yeah, the one you said, Steamboat Savage, it's a great choice. I mean, that match could have taken place 20 years later and still have been one of the best matches of the night because it was so far ahead of its time. People talk about it now. The wrestlers, the talent talk about it now. I think it's probably the single match that motivated more wrestlers to start wrestling than any other match. It was iconic. It's iconic.
No, you're absolutely right. Funnily enough, when I was looking up bits of information because I wanted to see how long the match lasted, and when I found out how many near falls there were and all that kind of stuff, Chris Jericho has said that this is one of the matches that got him into wrestling because he saw Steamboat as IC champ, and that was the belt that he wanted growing up as a kid. So that's what helped to get him into wrestling. A bit of a random name, but Zach Gowen has spoken about this match loads as well and how much it meant to him. Jesse Ventura has said that it's the greatest match that he's ever witnessed live. And think about how many he was a part of. He says it's the best he's ever seen. Somebody else as well. Oh, Mean Gene. Similar things as well. But it was one of the greatest matches he had ever been there live for. So, yeah, man. Awesome. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the way that we've done this episode rather than just picking a random WrestleMania and going through the entire card. Can be a bit monotonous, can be a bit boring. So yeah, that was awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining me, Mike. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did.
I did. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this was really good because, like you said, you could break down a card and have some matches that you're not too bothered about, which you would have in any Mania. But doing it this way, we got to talk about our favourite moments ever throughout all 37 WrestleManias. So this, I really enjoyed doing it this way. Yeah, definitely.
No negativity.
No.
Like we
have to talk about some of the rubbish that we may have, it's bound to be rubbish.
Yeah, we recorded No Way Out 2004 review that went out a couple of months ago in February, and a lot of that show we just talked about how bad like Jamie Noble versus Mania blindfold match was.
Exactly, yeah.
Back in December when I did the December to Dismember pay-per-view recap, that was obviously just like an hour of negativity. So it's nice. Yeah. It's nice to talk about the positives from time to time. Awesome, Mike. Again, like I always say, mate, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure having you on the podcast. Even though you're always here, it's always a privilege to sit and talk wrestling with you. Before I let you go, as I always do, please let people know where they can find you to talk wrestling.
Yeah, find me on Twitter at NunnyBoy20. Come with me and follow, talk about wrestling. You can see me on here a lot as well, as you know by now. So yeah, thanks for having me again, mate.
No worries at all, buddy. Thank you very much for joining me and giving me your time on this Saturday afternoon. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I forgot to say it at the start, but please make sure you hit subscribe or follow, depending on where you've got this episode from. Hit on my link as well. This is something that I'm really trying to push. I've started a mailing list so that you get notifications and emails for when I've got new episodes coming out, exclusives, news, competitions, giveaways, all that kind of nonsense. So please drop me your email address in there. That would be massively appreciated. I look forward to catching you next time, and it's my wrestling podcast.